All right, imagine this. You're flipping through TV channels late one night, and you stumble on an old episode of one of those cheesy 70s dating shows. Big hair, corny jokes, bell-bottoms, the whole vibe. But here's the twist. One of the guys smiling into the camera, flirting with the bachelorette. He's not just a bachelor. He's a cold-blooded killer. Not in a movie. Not in some urban legend. This really happened. Rodney Alcala. Ever heard of him? He's the guy they ended up calling the dating game killer. And his story? It's one of the creepiest, most twisted true crime cases I've ever come across. And trust me, once you hear what he did, before and after that game show, you'll never look at a charming smile the same way again. Rodney Alcala wasn't your typical monster. He wasn't hiding in the shadows. He was out in the open, mingling, chatting, smiling. On paper, the guy was golden. Born in Texas in 1943, raised in California, smart as hell, IQ off the charts. He even studied film under Roman Polanski. Seriously, the man had credentials. He was also good-looking, the kind of guy people trusted instantly. He had a way of making people feel like they were the most important person in the room. But deep down, he was messed up. And not just a little. I'm talking full-blown predator. It started surfacing in the late 60s. That's when things really began to spiral. In 1968, he lured an 8-year-old girl named Tali Shapiro into his car, promising a ride to school. What happened next is the stuff of nightmares. By pure luck, a witness saw her get in and called the cops. They broke into his apartment and found her barely clinging to life. She'd been raped and beaten with a steel bar. But Alcala, he vanished, just disappeared, like a ghost. And that was only the beginning. After fleeing the scene in California, Alcala made his way across the country. He changed his name, called himself John Berger, and somehow managed to enroll at NYU. That's right. This guy who had just brutally attacked a child was now sitting in classrooms, learning film production like nothing had happened. But that's not even the craziest part. He got a job as a counselor at an arts camp in New Hampshire, a summer camp, with kids. One of the campers there? A young Courtney Love. No joke. Eventually, someone recognized him from a wanted poster and turned him in. He was extradited back to California. And then something absolutely insane happened. He wasn't prosecuted for the original charges because Tali's family had moved to Mexico and didn't want her to go through the trauma of testifying again. So what did they do? They cut a deal. He pled guilty to a lesser charge and was out in less than 3 years. Less than 3 years for what he did to that little girl. Once he was out, the cycle started all over again. He tried to stay low for a while, enrolling in community college, pretending like he was rebuilding his life. But Alcala couldn't hide who he really was, and it didn't take long before women started disappearing again. In 1977, 23-year-old Ellen Jane Hover, the daughter of a popular Hollywood nightclub owner, vanished. Her body wasn't found until a year later in the hills above Los Angeles. Alcala had been one of the last people to see her alive. That same year, 2 more women were murdered, both lured by Alcala pretending to be a professional photographer. One of them, Georgia Wickstead, was found in her Malibu apartment. She had been raped, beaten, and strangled with a pair of tights. He was escalating, getting bolder, more violent, and he was getting away with it. So now picture this, 1978. Alcala is in the middle of a killing spree, and somehow he ends up as a contestant on the dating game. You can still find the footage online, and it's just surreal.
When his father found him in the dark room at the age of 13, fully developed. Between takes, he might find him skydiving or motorcycling. Please welcome Rodney Alcala.
Bachelor number one.
He's Bachelor number one, flashing that smile, and nobody has a clue who he really is.
Come on, over here.
And the Bachelorette, Cheryl Bradshaw. She picks him. She actually picks him. But here's the kicker. After the camera stopped rolling, she got this feeling. Something just felt off. She asked the producers not to go through with the date. And man, thank God she trusted her gut. Because if she hadn't, we might be telling a very different story right now. What's terrifying is that no one knew what he'd already done or what he'd go on to do. One of the wildest parts of this case is the collection. When they finally arrested him, they found a storage locker full of photographs. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Most were of women. Some were clearly posed and consensual. Others, not so much. Some of the women in those photos were later confirmed to be victims. Others have never been identified. The FBI eventually released a bunch of them to the public, hoping someone might recognize the faces. To this day, there are dozens of photos where no one knows who the women are or if they're still alive. In 1979, a 12-year-old girl named Robin Samso disappeared on her way to ballet class. It was a warm summer afternoon in Huntington Beach. Witnesses later said they saw a man talking to her, described as having a camera, shoulder-length hair, tall. A sketch was drawn. It looked just like Alcala. Police brought him in. He had an alibi. Sort of. He said he'd been with his mother, getting his car worked on. But the timeline didn't quite line up. They didn't have enough to charge him right away. But when they searched his storage locker, that's when everything changed. They found Robin's earrings, along with the photos, along with other things. That sealed it. He was arrested and charged with her murder. Alcala went to trial, was convicted, sentenced to death. But this story's far from over. He appealed. The verdict was overturned. There were issues with jury instructions, with admissible evidence, so he was tried again. Same result, convicted, sentenced to death. And again, it got overturned. Years passed. Families were re-traumatized, victims forgotten. He sat in prison, reading law books, preparing for his next shot at redemption. In his final trial, get this, he chose to represent himself. Yeah, he questioned witnesses, made bizarre arguments, played a portion of the dating game episode for the jury. Despite it all, he was finally convicted on 5 counts of murder and sentenced to death. Again, over time, DNA evidence linked him to more victims. He was charged in New York for the murders of Cornelia Crilly and Ellen Hover. He pled guilty in 2012. In total, he's confirmed to have killed at least 8 women. But investigators believe the real number could be much higher, possibly over 100. He traveled frequently, had access to women through photography, schools, social settings, and with those photos still out there, we may never know. Rodney Alcala died in 2021, natural causes, on death row. After decades of appeals, courtrooms, and haunting silence, he never showed real remorse, never confessed to the full extent of his crimes, and the trail of destruction he left behind still affects families today. What haunts me most about this case isn't just the brutality, it's the mask, the way he hid in plain sight, smiling on camera, cracking jokes, winning over audiences. We like to believe we can spot evil when we see it. But Rodney Alcala, he reminds us that sometimes monsters wear human faces. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss what's coming next. Thanks for listening to the story. Stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, always trust that little voice inside. It just might save your life.